contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shouting loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
To the white fathers in Cliffwood Beach, New Jersey, back in 1977, who lined up your sons one by one to take a punch at me when I simply just wanted to sit with my friend and watch a softball game, and throw your sons at me one by one, saying, "Get him, son, he's just a nigger." I still remember. To the substitute teacher at Thompson Junior High School in Middletown, New Jersey in 1978, who sat at her desk and did nothing when a student poked his head into our science class, whispering, "Nigger, nigger." And I looked at you, looking for you to do something, and you did nothing. I still remember. To my Thompson Junior High School in Middletown, New Jersey, basketball coach who played every kid on our team during a scrimmage against Bayshore Junior High School, played everybody twice and didn't put me in once, and then told my parents that it was an oversight. I still remember. To that same basketball coach who, while addressing the basketball team casually as we ate lunch together after a basketball game, the day after a basketball game, addressed one of my co-players, one of my teammates, and said, "Hey, you guys did an okay, you had an okay game, but I don't want you taking any more of those herky-jerky nigger shots again," while I sat there looking up at you. I remember. I still remember. To the vice principal of Thompson Junior High School in 1978, who I went to time and time again to tell you about all of the racism that I was experiencing in your school, and you did nothing, and got mad at me because I used the payphone to call my mother to come in because I had had enough. I still remember. To the 9th grader, while I was in 7th grade, again at Thompson Junior High School in Middletown, New Jersey, who knocked my sneakers off of my shoulder while walking through the hall, bumping into me, simply just to call me a nigger. I still remember. To the Glassboro State College football player who stood behind a dark screen as I walked through the courtyard of Mullica Hall in 1986 with my girlfriend, who yelled out and said, "What are you doing with that nigger?" I still remember. To the coworker at the Bancroft community in Mullica Hill in 1988-89, while referring to another staff member at Bancroft as a nigger right in front of me, thinking it was okay. I still remember. To the older woman in 2010 at the McDonald's on Oregon Pike in Manheim Township, Pennsylvania, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, while coming out of the McDonald's with my 2 young sons, shouting "nigger" as I drove by. I still remember. To the countless people whose doors I knocked on during one night in 1983, just off of Red Hill Road as my car was stuck, who slammed their doors in my face when all I wanted to do was use your phone to call somebody to help, and had to walk a mile to a payphone to contact my friends who I am so grateful for, who came to help me. I still remember. To the older lady who used to walk her dog in our neighborhood in Westfield, New Jersey, who dropped her keys in front of her house, who asked me to help her look for those keys, and then remarked, "It's like trying to find a nigger in a haystack." I still remember. And to the countless of other white people in my life who have accidentally used the N-word in front of me and then say, "Oh, of course, I'm not referring to you. You're not like them." I still remember. Many of you who have known me for the last 40 plus years probably haven't heard all of those stories. Maybe you've heard none of those stories, but that has been my experience. And I have spent a majority of my life keeping that inside so as to not make you feel guilty or uncomfortable. That stops today because I still remember.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Eric Dawson Show. I don't have Deirdre Viney on the screen this morning. Miss looking at her face, but she is on the line. And I have Diane L. Murray Clements, and we have hailing from South Jersey, more specifically Camden County, your U.S. senatorial candidate, Vincent Squire. Welcome, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, doom and gloom. Good morning.
Good morning, Lady Diane. How are you?
So, and I asked you, Diane, before I played it, I said, we don't have to talk about it. It literally, we can, but we don't have to. It speaks for itself, I think. And maybe to talk about it will step on a message. I don't know. Maybe people just need to be in that space and kind of reflect on it. But what I got out of it, just very quickly, and then if you guys want to weigh in, you can, is that America is right now in a victim blaming game, right? A lot of Americans, why is everything got to be about race? Why do you guys need reparations? Why can't you just do this? Things are not that bad. And I didn't know, so full disclosure, that's my younger cousin Mark that did the video. I had no idea he was doing that. I got up this morning, and as I was, as I headed off to the kitchen and began to bake, I started going through my feed, and that popped up. So I saw the number of views. This morning it was at 3,000. Now it's at 4,200. And so I said, wow, what did Mark say? They got 3,000 views. And I listened to it, and I just started thinking to myself, wow, we don't talk about it, right? A lot of us, we just shoulder a lot of what he shared. And we just try to go through life and we, get these different prescriptions on how to deal with things, but we don't really know what the true ailment is. And I thought about it in the context even of the show today with Deidre. And when we talk about employment and how to find jobs, things that you should do, how you should prepare. And I was saying to myself, we don't know how Black folks are coming to any of these situations, whether it's looking for a job, whether it's sitting in a classroom, being confronted by police. This background information is helpful to say, wow, you've got these deep unresolved scars. So Mark said, I remember in 1971 when this happened. How's that impact him? So we can sit, I don't know Mark. I mean, I do know him, but you don't. And so if he were looking for a job, we would simply say, well, these are the kinds of things that you should do. Here's how you should be prepared. So in a normal space, assuming none of these things that occur to you, happen to you, this is what you should do. And to suggest that we not pay any attention to it, right? Because we do try to do that. Well, you know what? You gotta bite the bullet on this thing because you gotta go get a job, right? Or you gotta do this thing, and you can't keep, you can't keep staying in this place. You gotta move forward. And I'm saying, well, listening to him, even though he's moved forward, right? He's got, two beautiful sons. He's got a beautiful wife. Just bought a house. I think this is his second or third house that he's bought in his lifetime. Right? Kids, college students. All of those things. He's got a great job. Success by a lot of measure. But in some respects, he still hasn't moved on. Right? So I'm saying, even all of the things that he's accomplished, the baggage that he's still carrying through these unresolved feelings, we just have to, I just, it caused me to pause anyway, and I just wanted to share that with folks because I'm looking at what's happening now. There are a lot of people who are acting out. And we talk about the looting and everything, and but they're dealing with unresolved anger, right? Unresolved bitterness, unresolved, oppression.
That's a big reason this display of civil unrest has been going on for so long. Is like your cousin. Everybody or everyone of color has experienced that level of systematic or schematic racism that causes another person or emboldens another person to say something very humane or act very unhumane against you. And all you want to be is a human being and the best human being that you could possibly be. It's been going on because of that systematic racism where small towns need to increase their revenue and they pull over everybody with color and give them some bogus ticket and you take it to court and you are in a no-win situation just for your money. So you're that racism that allows somebody to say things and then it's just like it was back in the 60s, and I used to go to my family's house in, South Carolina, and, they would talk about, these white people who would just come in your house and rape your mother. That level of racism that people have been just sucking up for generations and generations, it's now coming to a head, and America has to address that systematic racism and oppression against people of color. Because I think everyone now is just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Cool. All right. So, anyway, I just need to get that off my chest. Thanks a lot.
Me too. Because I was really sick and tired of owning a Bentley and living in Mount Laurel and getting pulled over twice a week by, the same police officers.
I learned. So anywho, on to the business thing.
So, onto the business thing. So, Deidre.
Yes, sir.
So we talk about reinventing, right? And people doing different kinds of things. And I just have to share this experience. So Grandma Emma's, we had our first farmer's market yesterday. And it was interesting. Well, there are a lot of things that I've learned. Right now that I'm working in this commercial kitchen, I'm meeting all kinds of people, all kinds of entrepreneurs. And then all of the entrepreneurs that I met yesterday at the farmers market. And in the commercial kitchen, the only black business, and in the farmers market, the only black business. And I'm scratching my head and I'm looking at all of this and I'm saying to myself, man, in this age where 40% of the jobs that are being lost are not going to come back, I'm trying to figure out, outside of going and looking for traditional employment, which is what we're going to talk about with you, that some people can look, at skills that they have, and they can maximize those skills to help make ends meet. And Diana and I were talking about that earlier today. And I said to her, one of the many things that I found out as we branched out to do this business, and we're doing it as a business, right? So I'm actually, not just a side hustle, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but we literally are doing it as a business. So we've got all the papers, we've got the insurance, we've got the commercial kitchen, we've got all those things. But how was I going to say it? So if you're not going to do it as a business, though, and you need to just make ends meet, I was saying to Diane, New Jersey is the only state that does not allow, what is it called, Diane? Well, in essence, it's cooking from home, right? So where you could prepare meals and sell them from your home. All other states, all 49 of them, allow you to do that except New Jersey. And I thought that was odd. But Diane did find some information. I didn't get a chance to read it, Diane, but there's apparently legislation that is being looked at, considered, to change that, to allow for baked products, I think Diane told me. But all of this, because I'm trying to figure out between the information that you provide, Deidre, and some other my personal experiences now, and I really try to stay away from anecdotal stuff, but this was eye-opening for me to just kind of watch how, some of these entrepreneurs are making a crap load of money, and it's legitimate. And I know that we say that exposure is a big reason why we don't take advantage of opportunities. And so me being exposed to some of this stuff, I wanted to bring it and share it with other people. But there is this legislation that's being considered. Again, we're the only state in the union that doesn't allow for it. And then so as I was at the farmer's market, I'm thinking, how many, folks, bake good cakes or good pies or breads or meals that they could, seal in those containers, meals to go, and that they could supplement their income. And so I'm going to learn a little bit more about the legislation. If you guys believe that that's something that we should be pushing for, and finding legislators who have the courage to push for it and get it passed, especially given the current economic climate, we need to get that done. So I wanted to share that information too.
That's wonderful. So it sounds like it's going really well for you, Eric.
Well, you know what? I didn't. I didn't realize how many people like cobbler, peach cobbler in particular. right? And so there, Amina and I were with all of these really experienced people, Deidre, at farmers markets, farmer marketing, I guess, whatever the term is. And they had these fancy tents, and they had all of their containers and their tables, and they had these systems of setting stuff up. And I was talking to them as they were doing it. They had to help us set our tent up. we were trying to set our tent up. We had to get help setting the tent up. And we had one table. We had 4 styrofoam containers that contained the product in it, and we had a little signage on the table, and that was it. And all these other people that came over to us, and they said, this is it. This is all you have. so
Wow.
I said, yeah. I said, this is all we got. So they were listing all of the things that they were selling. And it reminded me, I started thinking about Famous Amos. And I said to one of the vendors, I said, well, Famous Amos only had one thing. He had a chocolate chip cookie. I said, and he made the best chocolate chip cookie at the time. And for people who didn't like chocolate chip cookies, you didn't go to Famous Amos. You went somewhere else. But if you wanted a good chocolate chip cookie, you went and got that tin or that brown bag of Famous Amos cookies. And so I said, so we want to be the Famous Amos of peach cobbler. So if you want cake or cookies, you go over there. But if you want peach cobbler and you want a good one, then you're going to come Grandma Emma's. And we sold out. We sold out everything that we took. So we had a great experience. And the folks came over. They were all very, very pleasant to us. But again, I was thinking as I was there, I can't help but do it. Think about all of the other very, very talented folks in our community who are talented in the kitchen. I see them posting stuff all the time. And a lot of them are sheltered in place. They've lost their jobs. They're looking for the stimulus check, which is going to end in July. And I'm thinking, man, they don't have the financial means to go and get a commercial kitchen. They don't have the wherewithal to do these other kinds of things. But if they could cook out of their own kitchen, their own stove, they don't need much upstart capital, and they could do more than just survive, right? They could supplement in a really serious way their income and do better. So, I'm going to try to become more active in finding out about this legislation. And finding all of whoever the sponsor is or sponsors are, and the folks who are opposing it, because nobody should be opposing it. And if anybody is, then we should know who they are so that we can call them out.
So one of the things we were thinking of talking about today, Eric, was how to research a company.
Yes.
And how you can get yourself together, because the economy's coming back. And so I just want to kind of touch upon a couple of things that you could be doing. Okay. So it's really key that when you are out, you're talking a little bit about you getting your own thing going, and that's obviously huge. If you have a side hustle that you can take to a different level, absolutely. But if you are out in the market looking for a job now, please, you have to make sure you're doing some research on the company. I've interviewed tons of people that they come in the door, they haven't even done basic research. There's a plethora of things out there for you to consider, including obviously the company's website. Just doing a simple Google search on what they've been doing recently, what kind of trends are happening, who is their competition. Now you can even see and look at about the guy, the person or gal or female person that you're interviewing with. You can find out a lot more things with them through LinkedIn, and then you can make that connection when you have that interview, because you might have something very common. And that's, people like to, as they say, people like to buy from people they like. People like to hire people that they like as well. And so there's something that you can pick up that's kind of key on a LinkedIn profile, or based on your basic research about that company and that particular individual. Then that's a great way for you to segue in as you're having a great conversation.
So when you're in I couldn't agree with you more that folks should research the company, because main reason to see whether or not it's a good fit for you, right? Whether or not the, whatever it is that you're looking for outside of a paycheck, right? In terms of gratification and just the ability to leverage your skill set in an effective way, and that you're going to be happy. Because you may look at the company and maybe too small, maybe too big, right? The location of the company, may be a problem for you in terms of commuting. All of those kinds of things. And the other piece, like you said, trending, right? You want to be with a company, maybe that's forward thinking, that has that's cutting edge, as opposed to, a company that hasn't innovated in a while. So I think that all of that is very helpful. And now when you do have your interview after doing the research, like you said, Deirdre, you can talk very pointedly about these things and how you fit that position uniquely because you've done research. And you can tell when people haven't researched, right? Or when they try to what's the word? Not flub it, but when they try to when they pretend
wing it. When they try to wing it.
When they try to wing it.
No, BS.
No, BS, that's a better word. But you could tell when they do that. And so would you say, Deirdre, if a person didn't, and they always should, but if a person didn't research the company, should they just come out and tell you that they didn't have a chance to do that?
It would be pretty obvious. You have to make that judgment call, but it would be pretty obvious. And I've interviewed people, many people, that haven't done basic research on a company, and I'm not sure why that is. Because again, you're interviewing them as well, like you mentioned, that it needs to be a mutual understanding and agreement that this is going to be a good fit for you, based on what they have going on. So it'll come out. If you're going to say it straight up, I guess you don't want to lie. So I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I find it offensive.
Well, one of the other advantages.
They haven't, right? When you realize that in that moment, because there's a moment where they know they didn't do it, they didn't do the research. There may be a question that you've asked, and so now they haven't researched. They know they haven't researched, and they're still winging it. Right, and I usually find that offensive, and so for me, if you just came out and said, you know what, however you decide to do it, because we both know that you didn't, so now it's just about the artistry of honesty, and you saying, that you didn't get an opportunity to research the company, you regret that you didn't. However, being here, you want to learn as much as you can, because you believe that your years of experience. Could help the department, yada, yada, yada. And then we go from there. But at least you didn't lie, right? Because I think if we start off by saying lying is the biggest no-no, then you want to come clean on the not researching the company. What were you going to say, Vincent? Vincent? Oh, I thought he was still there.
We lost him.
Did we?
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Do we have a delay?
No, but one of the things that you look for when you're researching a company is the true meaning of why they want you. Particularly, researching you find out a great deal about the company. One, their projected revenue and growth. If they're a publicly traded company, or if they're a private corporation, their reason for hiring you could be legal. Let's say that you research the company and you find that they have multiple lawsuits about discrimination, and here you are in blackface. So you get to know the climate that they're looking to set you into. And you also get a stronger chance to, if you're going to be the first African American to reach this position in this company, then you get to actually set a better tone in terms of pricing and how much they're going to get you for your excellence. You also get an idea of where the company wants to go with you in that position. So if they're looking to go to the next level in terms of being a Fortune 500 or a top 100 corporation, and you can talk to your interviewer about how your skill set can help
That's absolutely right.
That's all good stuff. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I was looking it up because I always try to, and Vincent hit it. It said traditionally researching companies has a variety of benefits, including helping you tailor your answers to best suit the position. Right?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit when I interviewed you a couple of weeks ago. Remember? I mean, it was a mock interview, and so we didn't really have a full chance to get a full job description. I gave you a basic understanding of what I was looking for, but those are things, again, even down to your questions should be crafted ahead of time so that you're not scrambling in your head for what to ask, because you're going to do a lot of this digging ahead of time.
Right. So you're not sitting in an interview going, what I want to talk about is.
Yeah, don't do that.
Spend a lot of time talking about nothing to fill space. Now, let me ask you that question. So, folks say, well, I've heard. How long did your interview last? Oh, it was like a 20-minute interview, or it was an hour interview. Can you gauge? Because, I want to ask the question. Can you gauge the success of an interview or failure of an interview by the length of the interview?
I typically can, because if they're really interested in you, it should last a bit longer. If it was quick, I've actually shortened some interviews myself based on the fact that they've done no research. That's, like you said, is a big turnoff to me, right, because it shows that you didn't really take the, some basic research skills. Google searching, or
you didn't even Google me.
Yes, and so I'm turned off a bit. But maybe if your resume was stronger, and I can overlook that, and it also depends on the job. Let's say this was a really intense role where you're doing a lot of research, and you can't do basic research on the company. That's not going to work. So you have to really come in with your A game. This is really a key thing that people have to consider when you're coming to an interview, is that you can't just flub it. It's not going. It'll come out pretty quickly with a right interview, asking the right questions.
So, Deidre, what questions should you not ask? So, say you find some, incriminating information online about the company or about the individual that's interviewing you. What should you not say? Or what is off limits when they ask you, what are your thoughts, or, do you have any questions?
So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you're right. I was going to say, I take the Eric Dawson approach, that you can say anything. It's just how you say it and craft it that makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, so if there's things on there that are personal and there are things that are not positive, I certainly wouldn't bring that up, because that's not going to help that person. I'm sure they know that stuff is out there. You want to leave in a good light, so you want to have things that are positive about the company. But at the end of the day, like what Eric talked about earlier, or you, Vincent, when you talked about just understanding where the company is going and the direction of the company, and if you see something on there that you're like, it's giving you a pause, I think it's fair game to ask about it, to ask what's happening with this particular article that you read, so that you can understand where this company is going.
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with, again, what you're looking for. If you're just looking for a paycheck, and you're willing to work in any condition, then there's some things that you might see and you ignore them, right? If you are, however, looking for that right job, that right opportunity, and you have the time to, to really explore and be okay with bringing that information up at an interview, recognizing that it might lead to you not getting the job, but you'll get the truth about whatever it was you wanted to ask, then by all means, I think you should ask it. Right? If you're looking at something going, you know what, I wouldn't want to work there if this thing was really happening like that. Well, then you want to know if that thing is really happening like that. Because the shame would be to get there and to realize that all of the things you suspected were true, and now you're miserable working, right? So,
So Deidre, how do you how do you know what's a good fit for you? So, for instance, we talked about on previous shows about Amazon and the work conditions there, but you're looking for a job, not necessarily a career, but it may turn into a career for you. How do you manage the information that you know about, these sites that put up the employee comments and how they felt about working at the company to decipher what really is a good fit for you or what you should be looking for in a company?
What I like to do, and not a lot of companies do this, but you could find out if this particular company does, have a chance to speak to a current person that works there or two, because that'll give you an idea of culture fit a little bit. If you're seeing that you're reading a lot of derogatory information about the company, yeah, that's a decision you're gonna have to make. Right? If it's just a job and I'm just ready, just need to collect some money, I'm not looking long term. But if you're thinking about something long term, you want to try to uncover a couple of these rocks, just so you can go in with your eyes open, just so you can understand when you get there. Okay, this might be what's happening. But there's so much information out there. Glassdoor is one area that I don't particularly love a lot of stuff I see on Glassdoor, because a lot of times it's people coming from a different speed. You don't know the backstory about what happened, and people tend to get on there and complain about their work environment, their employer, and you're not sure what the whole backstory is. Some are obviously valid. I'm not going to discount that. There's some valid stuff out there, but I think you have to just kind of do a little bit of more due diligence on that side and see if it makes a good fit for you.
So the questions that you would ask the employer, it would be more of information rather than trying to get the latest gossip.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you don't want to actually, and then like Eric said, finding out that it's a good fit for you. So researching and asking questions, getting confirmation. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're in a completely racist environment or a sexist environment. One of the big things that used to kill me in the 70s when they did job postings on the newspapers is that they say, much like rock and roll atmosphere.
Well, one of the things is when you're looking for a job, you're looking to fill this immediate need for employment because you got bills and all those kinds of things. But that job, I think, Deidre, is a piece of the puzzle to a bigger narrative about you and your career. And so if you take a job, because some people just say, I'm just going to take this job and, I'm just going to suffer through it because I got these bills to pay and I'll figure out something later. Well, if you don't have the plan, and if that piece isn't correct, you wind up, like Vincent said, at a job that's miserable, where you're in either a culture of racism or sexism or other kinds of things that you just can't succeed at, right? And so now that affects your performance. And so however that job ends, and those kinds of jobs never really end well, you now have to go back into the market with that attached to you now, right? And so in as much short term, and I mean, tell me if this makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. But if short term you're doing this, but long term it's going to damage you. It's, to me, it's almost like somebody who was a vice president. They're out looking for a job and they say, I got these bills to pay, I got to get, and so they go take a job, a title that's lower than that vice president's job, right? Substantially lower. And now they decide that they want to go back out into the marketplace to look for this other job. Well, when you look down the resume, you as the person who's interviewing, you're going to ask the question, well, wait a minute, I see you were here, and then you went to this. What happened? Right? And now the person has to explain that. And it could be devastating to climb back up to the status of vice president if you went too far down.
Yeah, that's why research is key. And it's just never going to be a full answer, but like I said, I like to talk to current employees if you can get access to them. And if they're reluctant, that's a question mark you might want to ponder over. They're giving you an offer and you say, I'd like to just talk to one or two employees before I make a decision. We've got lots of different ways of jobs, right? You have jobs, I got to work right now. But I think that if you're looking long range, that you don't want to keep job hopping 6 months here, 2 months there. You want to have some place that you can hang your hat and feel comfortable and be proud of going to every single day.
So, Deidre, what happens if you get in a new job, and you find out it is not what they describe the job description to be? So you're doing something that's totally out of your job description. You're unhappy with the job, and you want out. How do you quickly move out? Can it be done? What should you do?
So that's a good question. This is the time to go to management and understand exactly what happened. Where did you go wrong with the job description? Or did you go wrong with understanding what the requirements of the job were? Is there something that can be fixed? Is there something that can be remedied before you just say, I'm out of here, nothing fits? So that would be my first step. If you've done that and then they, whatever kind of answer they came back, it is what it is, then, if you're at a place that you're unhappy, I'm not suggesting you stay. I just keep in mind that it might, to Eric's point earlier, if you're bouncing around from here to there, it might just not look positive on you just kind of jumping from here to there. If it's a situation where it's absolutely, I got to get out of here, then by all means. But I would try to first talk to management and see if there's any remedies that can be done.
But see, this is again to your point, Victor, where you need to do the research, guys, because it's I would say in a lot of cases, if you landed in a job like that, where it was, employers can lie. They could put together a real sexy job description with a title, right? And then you get in there and you realize that you've been bamboozled. But if you are a good interviewer or interviewee, right? And you're not really an interviewee, you're an interviewer, right? See, so you take the posture when you're going on a job interview that person is interviewing you. You have to take the posture of you interviewing them. And so, because you don't want to fall into a bad situation like that, right? So now you're asking those critical questions, because these are the top 5 or 10 things that are concerning to you. These are things through your vast experience working at other companies that you liked and you didn't like, things you wouldn't want to repeat, things you would love to have more of, right? And so now, so maybe you want more collaboration. Maybe you want less oversight. Maybe you want more time flexibility, right? Maybe you want less of something else. And so in that interview, you're expressing those things. Now, it's up to them to tell you the truth, but you can at least ask the questions. Don't leave the question unasked and unanswered, and then hope that if you got the job, you can go in there and mold the company to be the way that you want it to be. Because that's not going to happen. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, so Deidre, tell me, let's say you get the position, as Diane stated, and they're having you do far and beyond the job description, and you go in and you talk with management, and the first thing that comes out of the management's mouth is, see, what happened was...
Well, there's always situations where you might need to be readjusted, right? There's always times where someone might leave, let's say, and now they're saying, "Oh, well, now Vincent, you can do their job and your job." Well, that's not going to work.
Not unless you're going to compensate Vincent.
Exactly. So I think that to Eric's point, you might get into a place and they didn't represent themselves to the best light. You got to just make the determination and see if you can remedy it. If it can't be remedied, just try to stick it out if you can. Just try not to, keep jumping, because you got to do that, front work. That front work is the key thing.
But see, even in that scenario, so let's work this backwards a little bit. Let's look at what Vincent asked. So that was a concern of his, right? So if he were going on a job interview, maybe the question that you're asking the person who's interviewing you is, what is the turnover rate here? Right? And so now they're going to answer that question. So meaning, how often are people either fired or leave? Right. And then now once they give you that answer, it's going to give you some pretty telling information. If they say, we have a very low turnover rate. The last time somebody left here was, 10 years ago. Oh, a lot of stability in that company, right? If they tell you, people are leaving every 3 months, then you got to think about that. And then you can ask the question, you ask the follow-up question if it's something that concerns you. When that happens, how do you fill roles? How do you go about doing that? Now they answer that question. We usually ask people to pitch in. Now, if that's not something you're interested in, if you want to be compensated for pitching in because they hired you to do this thing, but now you got to spend more time on it, you can ask that question too. Is there compensation when that occurs? So I'm just trying to work backwards because I understand when Vincent asked the question, that may be a concern of his. That companies do that, right? They hire you, somebody leaves, they all of a sudden pile that work on people. Now you got disgruntled workers. These people are not making any extra money and they're working twice as hard. Right? But if that's the culture of that company, that's the culture. And you know that if you ask the correct questions in the interview.
Yep. That's all part of it. I mean, there's no perfect answer to that one either, because that could happen at a drop. Right. And you're left holding the bag, and you want to be that team player, and you want to, prove that you can do what you can do, especially if you're new to the company. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also a time to really be strategic and figure out where you can navigate within the company as you're kind of taking on double work. Even if it's on a short-term basis, because you can really shine, but still be advocating for a replacement, for that role, for that person that left. But you can really have an opportunity to really shine and show what you're made of.
So you doing double work could just be circumstance rather than a setup.
Well, yeah, you can look at it that way.
So, okay, does this happen a lot in terms with, I know it can happen with private corporations or non-union shops or businesses. Does it happen a lot in terms of union businesses?
I can't answer that. I'm just saying in general, there are times when people leave. There's turnover no matter where you go. And then you have to, and then someone's got to do that work. And when companies try to save money, that might be the way that they pile it on to the current employees. It's just be an advocate for yourself and speak up and stay real close to management. Understand what you're obviously capable of doing within reason. And again, it could really turn out on the other end of the table, where I've had friends where they piled on work to them, right? And they've had to do double the amount of work because someone left or whatever. But they were able to shine and show, this is what I'm made of, and then help to get that new person hired. To help be in the room to be able to say what things are needed for that new person.
But
I think the corporation did reward them for their hard work and stick-to-itness.
Yeah, but I think that again, a lot of that comes. You can look. Corporate culture isn't something that happens overnight, right? It is something that develops over time, and then it's there. And so whether you are on these different sites, what was the one that you mentioned, Dietrich, where employees can go and comment about
Glassdoor.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So whether it's sites like that you look at, and again, take some of it with a grain of salt, because it may just be a disgruntled employee, but it is information, right? Nonetheless. So you have that information about that thing. And so you go into the interview and you don't want to necessarily ask that direct question, right? So somebody went in there and trashed the company. So you don't want to go in with a screenshot of that and say, look, I saw this on Glass. No, but you can ask questions in a way that lets you understand what the overall culture is, right? And if you find that it is not an employee-centered culture, meaning that they don't value their employees. So when you're talking about flex time or flex days, or how do you handle situations like this? I live this distance away. If it snowed and we got 15 inches of snow, and if the person said, well, we expect you to come in here anyway, and we expect you to, and now you're listening to that and you're remembering what you read on the site, and then you ask them the question about turnover, and then they tell you that over the last 2 months they have 40% of the employees quit. And then you go back and remember what you read there, then it all starts to make sense, right? And maybe that's not a place you want to be. But on the other hand, if somebody trashed that company on that site, but then you go in and they're talking to you about longevity, they're talking to you about collaboration, how they have think tanks within the company, how they have suggestion boxes, and they weigh all this stuff. Now you figure that might just be a disgruntled employee, right? Because you're getting all this other kinds of information. But it is important not to just go there. I think what we're all saying, to just go there, sit down, and have the person ask you, 10 questions, you answer those 10 questions, and then you walk out of the room. That's not the interview.
So, Deidre, questioning, to get to the hard questions from the interviewer, how can you craft it where it's an actual information and not, putting them on the spotlight about the dirt in the corporation?
So you're saying you found out something derogatory and you want to know more? Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yes, I need a little more clarity, because I really don't want to get the job and then have to go out and make my Me Too poster.
Right, exactly. So depending on what it is, I may not ask it directly, but I might sort of understand what the culture is of, let's say, rewarding people for hard work, or let's say it was something really nasty about compensation. Understand, when are you going to be evaluated for a raise?
Right. So
that you can have an understanding up front, that this person is saying that. I don't think it's fair to kind of just throw that out there, because it might be things on Glassdoor or those other sites that are not, they're just mad employees. So depending on what it is, I would just find a way to ask it, but not ask it directly, if that makes sense. Just find a way that where you can, if it's about not say, promoting people, right. Understand, okay, what are some time frames that I should be looking at for metrics, and what are specific metrics you'll be looking at for me to get promoted to different areas? What does that look like? So I think it's fair to kind of craft it in a way that's very professional, and that lets them know that you are engaged.
Yeah.
So you should say, so what's up with that girl that said that you harassed her?
No, of course not. But I agree with you. But here are the things that you can ask, or you should try to find out. Do you promote from within? I would even say, if you have a concern about it being a culture of, that might lead to some Me Too moments, right? You might even be able to ask, I'm not sure exactly how, but ask about managers, right? Women managers, men managers. How, do you have, what is the ratio of men to women managers or supervisors or vice presidents within the company? A lot of companies, if you do the research, because they want to be boastful about that information, right? You might be able to just go right on the website and see it, right? So if you see that you've got, 80% of the management staff are women, right? And then you ask the question, do you do promoting from within? And they say, you know what, 60% of our promotions happen from within, or, people rise up to be. And then you say, well, okay, so these women stayed here through this culture, they rose to be vice presidents or whatever, right? It might lead you to believe that that is a culture that values women, values hard work of women, and someplace that you might want to be, if that were a concern of yours, right? But if you, on the other hand, you go to the website and you see, 95% or so of the management staff men, and then you were on that site and you saw them talking about sexual harassment, women talking about that and talking about devaluing of women and such, then you might be able to glean from the profile of the business on the website, and then asking the appropriate questions during the interview process, might be able to glean that may not be a place that you want to be, that they don't value women. They don't value hard work and promoting from inside. And then along with that, you have a high turnover rate.
It's definitely a craft. There's no perfect answer to it. Mm-hmm. You can get into a company that's just horribly run, horribly managed, and then you have to kind of figure out how you navigate that. You can have a manager that's just not who you thought they were. There's no perfect way to get all the right answers to make you completely comfortable. But I think just doing some preliminary digging, and I mean, like I said, if you can even talk to them. We do like a job shadow day where you're able to shadow someone for the day to kind of really dig deeper and ask a couple questions about the person and the job, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all is important. It's like any other relationship, right? You want to do some investigating, because during that. What were you saying, Vincent?
I was going to ask Deidre, do you research the clients that are looking to hire people through you?
We do, because that's important for us to tell the people that we're placing, because we want to know as much, and we get tours too. We go inside and we check out the environment and make sure it's a good fit for that person based on our interview we had with them. So let's say you wanted a really, corporate environment, and we go there and it's more not really that kind of environment, then we know that's not a place that we're going to place you at. So we do the same level of research. We got to go in there and check it out and see where they're going, right? Who are their competition? Where's the direction? How is the company growing?
Talk about.
Okay, so between me and you, Deidre, have you ever researched a client and actually turned down their business?
Yes, I have. Usually.
Give us the tea, girl. Give us the tea. Come on.
Well, if it's something that I feel it might not be a safe environment for the people that we're placing, based on we've done some due diligence, yes, we've turned them down.
I see. Well, great. So you're a great firm for people to be employed by.
I hope so.
So, listen, I've got a whole lot of unemployed relatives right now. Tell me, do you have a website or something that they can look you up on, or?
Yes, sir. expresspros.com/Jersey City. I'll put it in the feed for later, but it's expresspros.com/ we're in a Jersey City office, so /Jersey City.
Okay, because I shared this show with all of them, so y'all heard her. Don't call me anymore. Thank you.
So the other
you're in South Jersey, Vincent. You have friends up this way, family up this way?
Yeah, some of Central Jersey.
There's no Central Jersey.
Okay, Jersey City, Middlesex.
I'm one of those people that says only north or south.
No, Central is north or south. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Some are in Jersey City. Some are in Middlesex. Some in Bayonne.
Yeah. So the other thing, last part on researching the company. Also, we talked, Deirdre, about cleaning up your social media pages because companies are going to be reviewing your social media pages. Along with doing the research of companies, right? Because they'll give you the list sometimes of the managers of the different departments, the vice president, the president. You can go and do your own research into their social media pages too. Right?
You can, absolutely.
Right? So to Vincent's point, what was they asked you if you enjoy what kind of music, Vincent?
No, they post much like a rock and roll atmosphere.
Oh, rock and roll atmosphere. So you can go and maybe you have whoever that person is who has that department. Maybe they're a hard rocker, or maybe they're they like classical music. You see them posting some stuff, or maybe you see them posting alt-right stuff, right?
So you don't want to come in with 2 free tickets to the old school hip hop concert,
right? So you can go. These tools can be used by you. You know that they're being used by the company to find out about you. You should be using these same tools to find out all you can find out about the personality of the company and the personality of the people who are employed by the company. So, all right.
I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. I mean, because, look, I got a Facebook page. I had a Facebook page when I was at my last job. So I was the chief marketing officer, right? And I was listed on the company's website as the chief marketing officer. And so if somebody had gone and looked at my LinkedIn, they would have seen it, and they could have gone to my Facebook page. I didn't have a Twitter account at the time. But they could have certainly gone to my Facebook page, and they would have saw pictures of my family and friends. At that point, I wasn't doing the show, so they wouldn't have seen any provocative content. But now, if a company did hire me, they would be able to go and see that, right? So they would see that, Eric is a proud Black American who speaks out about racism and injustice and all those kinds of things. And the company would have to make a decision about whether they're comfortable with me. And knowing that there might be employees or, prospective employees who would be looking at my page and whether they would be comfortable working under me. They'd have to figure that all out. So that's how this whole social media piece ties in.
And this is the last thing I'll say on that, Eric, and I actually have to go in a little bit. But one of the things I want to say, too, is to make sure that you Google yourself. Because I don't know if people do that and they realize that what things are attached to them.
Oh.
How you fix that, sometimes it's very challenging, but Google yourself because a company's going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never Googled myself.
Well, you'll be surprised. And then I know a really good lawyer for that.
You've Googled me, Vincent?
Yes.
That's, what, Deidre, I think that is, and as soon as I get off the show, I'm gonna Google myself, see what it says. But I think that's helpful information too. Well, listen, I want to thank you for sharing with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm still listening.
Oh yeah, we got some stuff to talk about. Vincent's got some stuff he wants to talk about. There's a lot going on in this country right now.
Thanks, Deidre. Always a wealth of information.
Always a wealth of information. I'm going to Google you too, Diane.
Go ahead. Do it.
Eric, that sounds like she said feeling at the school.
Hey, you know what? Yeah, I appreciate Deidre, guys. Hit the share button. Share the information. Amina Googled me when we met. And she told me.
As she should.
My wife Googled me when we met.
And she should have called all her police officers friends to look you up.
But yes, we're in the information age, so you do Google people because you don't know who you're dealing with and their perspective, their position. So yeah, it keeps you from getting into those uncomfortable situations.
Into those uncomfortable relationships, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So I think that the job and you is a relationship too, and so to stay out of uncomfortable relationships, all relationships, job or personal, Google, use the tools, research.
Right. I mean, when I met my wife, she Googled me. When I met her, she was a single mother. And, yeah, I can understand her position. You don't want to be in a potential relationship with somebody who's listed on Megan's Law or any other national registry.
Yeah, that may be a problem.
Yes.
That may be a problem. So what else is going on? There's a lot going on.
There's a lot. Let's start with our liar in chief bringing the Secret Service out and the state troopers to clear the park right next to the White House so that he can walk across the street. I mean, they were doing a peaceful protest, and he had them come out with tear gas, rubber bullets. And people think that, rubber bullets are just, completely rubber. No, rubber bullets are metal bullets encased in rubber, so it doesn't penetrate the skin, but it does break bones. And if you're shot in the head with a rubber bullet, it can kill you.
Well, but I heard something that the officers are trained to shoot the rubber bullets on the ground and let them bounce up and ricochet, not shoot them directly at the people.
Yeah.
Shoot them at the ground. So it slows them down a little bit, right? The force of it.
In theory, they're trained to hit the ground.
Oh,
that's what they tell you.
But they're also trained, or supposedly trained, to not body slam us and kill us when we don't have weapons or we don't really cause a threat, right? So they're also trained not to use chokeholds and put knees in necks and stuff like that too. So yeah, we got to.
And they're also trained to protect and serve, but we don't see a lot of that happening either.
That's absolutely right.
So the president had the Secret Service and the state troopers come in and shoot rubber bullets and tear gas to clear this peaceful protest, across from the White House. So after he cleared them out of the park, he then walked across the street to get a photo op of him holding the Bible next to a church that he has yet to be in. So, so that part really gets to me. I mean, it shows the true face of who was elected.
But I want to ask this question, and I get it, right? It was, I think Donald Trump, there's no pretending with him. Like, he's not doesn't do well at pretending. So all of his moves are very obvious, right? So yes, he had the police come out, he had them do what they did, clear the path for him. He went over to church, he took his photo out with the Bible, and everybody's offended. Is that any more offensive, though, than when you have a candidate go to a black church, right? And so, they flaunt out the fact that black people are valuable in terms of voting for them, and then the next thing you know, they start bringing black people onto their campaigns, and then they start taking pictures with black folks, right? Then they have black folks go into black communities and speak on their behalf, and then ultimately they get a pathway cleared to them to the pulpit of black churches. Is it, at the end of the day, is one more offensive than the other?
Well, no. No. See, offensive is basically taking your tax dollars using force to remove a group of peaceful people who are just exercising their constitutional right of free speech. Now, it's not like those group of people that he tried to liberate a couple of states who sat there and exercised their constitutional right to carry firearms in front of the state capitol. Sure. See, they didn't send anybody out. I'm sorry, I'm starting to get a little passionate. They did not send anybody after them.
I understand.
Okay, but yet he sends them after peaceful people.
No,
that is offensive.
I get it.
Now, wait a minute. Now, to add to the other part of your statement about the presidential candidate going to the black church and doing a photo out with them.
No. Don't narrow it down. I didn't say presidential candidate. That never came out.
Candidate or candidate in general.
Yeah, any candidate, right? They did that with Phil Murphy. Murphy went to church. I could talk about mayors. I could talk about council members. I could talk about Board of Education members. I'm talking about any elected official. See, I don't want to, I'm not narrowing this down to, always trying to broaden this conversation because these things happen. In the a year ago, in the election in Irvington, the gentleman who was running for a council seat, who wasn't with the mayor sent the police to his campaign headquarters and argued that he was getting ready to put sound on his car but didn't have a permit to do that. Meanwhile, we know that people ride around without permits all the time. So I'm saying this stuff happens, and I want to just talk about the level of offensiveness. Hold on one second.
No.
Hello, caller. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Caller?
Hi, my name is Barbara. I spoke to you yesterday regarding your page on Facebook.
I'm gonna call you as soon as I'm off the air. I'm live on a show. I'll give you a call as soon as I'm off the air, Barbara.
Okay, good.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
People. Now, am I going to have a great deal of, due to my life experience being a man of color, and bring that to my campaign or bring that to my actual tenure as a politician? Yes, I will. But I also have some understandings of other races and cultures too.
Sure. I just want to, again, I look, all of it is offensive to me. There are people who are selective in what they're offended by. I'm saying that the whole thing stinks to high heaven to me. All of it. So yes, I saw what Donald Trump did yesterday. And yes, it was offensive. But it's not the only offensive thing that is taking place in this country right now.
No. Well, here's a really offensive thing that's taking place in this country. They blackball Colin Kaepernick. Why? Because he took a knee. What are all these chief of police doing with these protesters now? Taking a knee.
Oh, yeah. So the NFL's got some splaining to do now, right? And here's the other piece. People have some explaining to do. So
America has some explaining to do, because they took away the reason for him taking a knee and just focused on him taking a knee. The reason he took a knee was because the injustice and the people being shot by police and not getting an answer. Now people have shot, people are protesting. They didn't listen to the knee. Now they're listening to the violence and they want to take a knee.
So all of this is very interesting, and I kind of know where those people who were opposed to Colin Kaepernick are going to go in their conversation, right? Where they tried to go in the beginning, which was making it about disrespecting the flag. They were making it about disrespecting the national anthem. They were making it about that. And Colin and all of the other folks who were supporting it were saying it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the racial injustices and bringing attention to that. And him taking a knee, right, was symbolic of, hey, look, America, let me pull your coattail. There's some issues that you need to address.
Well, we're talking with Colin and his people, and him taking the knee, he said, and I'll quote him, "No, I have family in the military." And he said, "Are you in the military?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Did you work on an honor guard detail?" I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "What do you do in the event of a fallen soldier with being in the honor guard?" So the last thing that we do is fold up the flag. We take a knee and we present it to the family out of respect.
Right.
And he said that's why he takes a knee.
Right. Well, do you remember early on in the process he was sitting, and then
correct,
and then he was instructed by a vet that taking a knee would be more respectful.
Right.
And that's what and so in an attempt, right? So Colin even then understood. So he said, "Look, I want to protest, but I want to be respectful," right? So he didn't take a hard line and say, "No, I'm protesting, and the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to sit down." He listened, right, to an objective voice, right? And the objective voice said, "Listen, and I get what you're trying to do, and here's the best way to do it where you're not offending. And that's what he did. And now the voices that were not objective, right? No matter what, Colin Kaepernick being black was offensive. You understand what I'm saying? So they found
Colin Kaepernick being black and standing up for blacks was offensive.
No. So that's what I'm saying. See, so there's difference, right? So and going back to what Farrakhan said about Charlemagne. When Joe Biden said you're not black, right? Because we have this understanding of what black is, right? You're subservient, you're docile, right? You just go along.
Passive. You're going to take one for the team.
That's black, right? And so Colin Kaepernick, because of what he was doing, by his very nature was offensive to people. Now, what I see happening, which is very, very interesting, in this whole, and I call it a temper tantrum that's taking place, you have folks who realize that this thing could get really, really out of control. And they're trying now to dampen down the emotion. And so if dampening it down means that we appease you by taking a knee with you, then that's what we'll do, because we don't want to incite anymore. We want everybody to calm down so that we can get back to the business of oppressing you. We need to get back to
freaking late. America right now, Black America right now, or oppressed America, because not only blacks are not the only oppressed people in America. America right now is sick and tired of being sick and tired. We're sick and tired of being manipulated and controlled by the machine. We're sick and tired of being marginalized and having no voice, with the exception of when it's time for the next election. We're sick and tired of the injustice that's happening.
But you keep saying
it's over. They had it. Eric, hold on. They had a chance. They had a chance when we said Black Lives Matter. They had a chance when Colin took the knee.
Right. But you keep saying that, and I keep saying to you, the evidence of being sick and tired means that you do something to change it, right? You do something to change it. And I don't have the evidence, and I'm listening to black voices that I value, right? Who are saying the same thing. They're saying that there's no evidence that this is going to be any different. That you see the same faces creeping up now behind the lectern. I saw Al Sharpton earlier at an event, right? And so my thing is this: if you really want change, the first thing you have to do is look at all of the people who oversee your pain and suffering now. All of those Negro whisperers, all those slave catchers, all those poverty pimps, because that's what they are. Because the condition you're in right now, they have all sat over it. So whether it's Al Sharpton with Nan, or this group with that, or the other, all of them have been there. I looked at Mark Mariel from the Urban League. Now he's out there talking about something too. And I'm saying, well, where are all of you guys when we don't have riots, right? You know where you are? You've got your tuxedo on and you're hobnobbing with the very politicians and corporate elites who have their knees on our necks. That's what you're doing.
Exactly. Why do you think that they are rioting now? Because our millennials do not trust them. They found them all to be compromised. How many people do you see under the age of 30 at an Al Sharpton rally?
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That is the whole point. Now, what's sickening me about this is the manipulation of Donald Trump and his cronies. So, you have the peaceful protesters, right? Now, what you found out is that all of these right-wing white supremacists are in there now causing havoc, being being disruptors, throwing stuff at stones, agitating, causing people to loot, and all that other crazy stuff, and to, one, give a black eye or take the effect off the protest, because people aren't paying attention to why they're protesting. They're paying attention to the violence and carnage. And then you got President Trump. Instead of calling it for what it is, these white supremacists that are in there agitating, he blames Antifa. Now, here's the thing. Antifa is a left-wing group to back up or to back down the white supremacist groups.
Right.
They don't mind scrapping with them. Yet he wants to call them a terrorist group. And we've been having the biggest terrorist group since the birth of the United States, called the Ku Klux Klan. Yet they have never been branded a terroristic group. Does that make sense? Does that show you the true colors of our president? He wants to put them on the FBI most wanted list, a group that is put together and formed to stop the violence of the white supremacists. Yet he does nothing against the white supremacists.
Right.
This is now. I will give the brother of Floyd, credit for one thing that he said. He said very eloquently, through all his pain, he said, look, if anybody has a belief or a right to go out and start rioting and start tearing up stuff and start smashing it, I have it. And I'm not doing it. He says, if you want to really fight, then get out and vote, not just for the president. Vote for your local. Vote for your school board. Vote for your mayor. Don't just vote for your governors and president, but vote everything and listen to what these politicians are saying and hold their feet to the fire. That's the whole thing that people need to listen to and start paying attention to. Not all this craziness just for the president. Vote for your local. Vote for your school board.
I agree. Sorry about the sound. But here's the challenge, right, Vincent? When you have this conversation about voting locally, getting involved locally, but then the whole drive, the entire narrative around this election is at the top of the ticket, right? It's a national election. It's national. So there's this undercurrent that says, oh no, you need to vote, you need to deal locally with it. But all of the money is spent at the federal campaigns. There lies the issue. That's why on this show, I keep trying to bring it back. So when the conversation is simply around Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I say, no, down ballot, right? Oh, well, we're talking, no, but what about your congressman? What about your state senator, your senator? What about your governor? What about your assembly folks? What about your freeholders? What about your council people, your mayors? Your district leaders, your ward chairman. What about those people? And that's where I think that we're missing out. And so when you say people are sick and tired, that they're sick and tired, I think that they're emotionally charged right now, right? And they've been, and as Dr. Eddie Glaude said, Donald Trump is easy. So we can look at him and we can continue all day. He's the fodder for the day, for every day, from now until November. But that's not where the hard, please mute your phone, but that's not where the hard work is. So the hard work is at these local levels. But we don't spend enough time. Turn the news on. See what the news is talking about. The news is talking about MSNBC is talking. If I go look, they're talking about Trump. They're not directing these people within these states who are frustrated, who you say are sick and tired of being sick and tired. To be sick and tired of their local government, to be sick and tired of their state government, to be sick and tired of their representatives. They're not telling them to be sick and tired of that. They're playing into this, and the death count is this from coronavirus. Trump didn't react to this because of whatever. Trump is now taking pictures and having the militarized police shoot rubber bullets at people. So that's what they're talking about. But they're not having the conversation about the the issues that have led to the folks in our communities being in the condition that they're in, and those who are overseeing it. So the same media is not looking at an Al Sharpton, because they got Al Sharpton on their show. So they're not looking at an Al Sharpton and saying, well, wait a minute, that guy's been around forever. What has he really done? Let's see measurable impact of what he's done compared to the money that he pockets.
Here's the measurable impact of Al Sharpton. With all this going on, have you seen any major network post or talk to Al Sharpton? No, you haven't. Because he's compromised. He is no longer the voice of the black people.
No, I understand that. But my point to you, though, is this. Understanding, so when I listen to the news, when I listen to the reports that you say, when I listen to how you narrate it and talk about what Donald Trump did, I'm going, got it. And Eddie Glaude is in, Dr. Eddie Glaude is in the back of my mind, right, the whole time. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, that's easy. We could do that all day. We could talk about Donald Trump all day long. I'm going, but that's not where the work has to be done. The work has to be done over here. So as long as we're distracted and we're talking about that over there, we're not doing the work over here. We're not ousting Cory Booker. We're not ousting Donald M. Payne Jr. We're not getting rid of failed mayors. We're not doing, why? Because like those posters in every election have been saying since Donald Trump's been in office, stop Donald Trump. And so that's where the focus is. So meanwhile, under the radar of stopping Donald Trump, all of these ineffective candidates get elected into office because we're told to stop Donald Trump. So we're literally letting an army of ineptitude march into political offices over the last 3 years because we're trying to stop Donald Trump. And my fear is, so in the idea of being sick and tired are we sick and tired of Donald Trump, or are we sick and tired of our condition?
Well, I think a majority of America, and this is just my opinion, but I believe that we're sick and tired of our condition. And you are right, because you can see the setup for the smoke and mirrors, because that's how these politicians have been staying in place since Donald Trump's election. They were there after he pulled that number by the midterm of his election. There should have been a huge wave of people voting down line, getting rid of all of these other people who have been supporting him. So yeah, the smoke and mirror game is still there. And the focus, yes, let's get rid of Donald Trump. But you know what else? We also have to get rid of his supporting characters. The senators who have done nothing to voice their opinions about what he's doing, although they've had the inside information of what he was concocting and could have gotten a whole lot of support to make some phone calls, to make some emails, to actually go to Congress and start protesting that. No, they did not do it. Let's get rid of them too. Let's get rid of our school board, especially in our urban areas. Well, let me finish.
But I'm saying you're right. But you're right. I'm saying you are 100% right. So to me, Vincent, that is sick and tired when we're doing that. But we're not doing that. We're burning down stores. We're burning cars. We're burning police stations. We're looting. Do you see what they did in New York? We're looting stores. That's what we're doing. We're not showing up at these board meetings. We're not saying, hey, listen, we're sick and tired of our kids failing. We're sick and tired of them being marginalized in classrooms and being far behind their counterparts in suburban America. We're sick and tired of that. We're sick and tired of the dirty water that we have to drink. We're sick and tired of the crime in our neighborhoods. We're sick and tired of all. They're not saying that. That is my point exactly. And so the protests or the temper tantrum, right? It's going to die down in another week or two, and nothing is going to fundamentally change because the eye is not on the prize.
So what you're saying is that it's going to die down with the next news cycle.
Well, I think that they're waiting for it to die. Well, so here's the conundrum for the news organizations. Their ratings are through the roof right now, right? Because everybody likes looking at a train wreck, right? Pull over to the side of the road, rubberneck, and you check it out. So everybody get, let me go see what's burning now. Let me go see who's burning what now. Oh, I just heard, or I saw on Facebook somebody posted that they did this to Macy's, or they did this to, whatever other store. And so they go look at those things. But it's not intellectual curiosity, right? It's no different than turning on Housewives of Atlanta or Honey Boo Boo, right? You just kind of, want to live in that space and not do anything constructive or productive. And
no intellectual curiosity, just gossip.
Right. And so for me, sick and tired means that you are now you're ferreting out information that's going to help change your circumstance. That's when you're sick and tired. When you're done. We talked about this, Vincent. When you're sick and tired of being in a relationship, you leave. When you're sick and tired of getting your ass kicked in an abusive relationship, you leave. Right? You can have the person there come crying to you every day and call you crying after they get beat up again. And they call you and then you know what you ultimately say to them? When you've had enough, what do? You leave. When you've had enough. And I'm saying that we haven't had enough.
Oh, no, not based on that last election that we talked about.
Yeah.
It was bringing in the same crappy school board, the same crappy administration. Yes. No, they're not tired of their children being undertaught. They're not tired of some of these school boards have in small towns. They have an average of $120 million in their budget. Yet, in these little small towns, when we had to shut down, they had to beg people for computers and then beg people to get them free Wi-Fi so the children could learn. Right. But no, nobody's tired of that.
Right. Well, that's my point. And so if people were honest with the folks out in the street right now and told them why they're in the condition that they're in, right? They wouldn't vote in the Democrats and they wouldn't vote in the Republicans. But the Democrats know that, and so they don't tell them. They hide it, right? They hide that hand. They threw this rock and they hid their hand, and they're telling all of the people, you know what? And they're using their media outlets to tell the people, in the end, your circumstance is the way that it is. The pain that you're suffering is because of that guy who's in the White House. And you know what? Let's get rid of him. And then we're going to restore the soul of America, and everything is going to be okay. That is the narrative. That's the narrative. And I'm saying to myself, no, come on, guys. You got work to do, like you said, in your school systems. If you want to understand why, you have why you're living in the conditions that you're living in generation after generation, right? It's because of these systems that are in place. It has nothing to do with that guy. Then you can hate him. Fine. I'm not defending him. But literally echoing in my head is Dr. Eddie Glaude saying, but he's easy. That's the easy thing. That's the easy way to absolve yourself of any responsibility. Because then you don't have to say, I need to take care of the Board of Education in my town. I need to make sure that my kid is getting adequate education. I need to make sure that racial tracking, profiling isn't happening in the schools. I need to deal with the segregation issue in New Jersey schools. I need to deal
with these police officers in these small towns pulling me over for nothing and me going to court and dishing out $200.
Yeah, I need to deal with all of that stuff, right? But no. See, if I blame Trump, and I don't have to do anything, they're going to do it all. They're going to take care of it all. And then in exchange, all they say to me is, just go out and vote. I got the rest. We don't have to do anything. Just go out and vote. And I'm saying that's the scariest thing in the world for me. Nothing is going to change.
Exactly. And that's what we're dealing with. Because one of the biggest issues that we run into is that we have been so conditioned to be so complacent, to be so forgiving as a race, to be so, extending that olive branch to the white man so that we can get along, that we have now forgotten the underlying issue and the cause of all of this frustration. not the simple fact that the cops getting killed. I mean, the kids getting killed by cops. Our kids have been getting killed by cops since post slavery.
Right.
It's the simple fact we've forgotten the underlying issue of the systematic racism that tears at the fabric of every man. The embarrassment that we've been dealing with just by being pulled over alone, or just being profiled and them being found wrong. How about the embarrassment of, you being dressed to the nines, yet a police officer, as Magic Johnson said last night, he says, you know what? I had the same talk with my kid that my father had with me, that his father had with him. And wait a minute. But hold on. But he said this. Hold on. 10 seconds, Eric. But Magic said this. He said it has gotten so bad now that, being complacent and just following along what the police officer says does not even work anymore. Because the man who died followed and did everything that he was supposed to do.
But let's not use the word. See, I think it's important. Words matter, right? Let's not use the word embarrassment. Let's talk about the fact that we're dealing with trauma. The trauma, not the embarrassment. See, they're different, right? The trauma. Did you look at Mark's face? Did you listen to the inflection in his voice? Right? 40 years later, after these incidents occurred. So
yes.
That's not embarrassment. That's trauma.
Well, it's a little part of the trauma is actually the degradation.
Right.
If I'm getting the right feeling.
So I want to talk about the trauma. And so when we talk about victim blaming, I'm saying America has inflicted trauma, absolute trauma, on a group of people, and we see them. And Dr. King, they're talking about this quote of Dr. King saying that riots. Is it protests or riots? I don't know which word he used. Is the voice of the oppressed, right?
Right.
That is the
voice
right.
of the voiceless.
Right. So that is the quote. But there are also some other things that Dr. King talked about, and he talked about looting, right? And he said that looting. I'm paraphrasing for you guys, but he said that looting, in the mind of some black, and I'm not justifying it at all. But it was very interesting in how he said it. He said that looting in the minds of some blacks is liberating, in that they want to do what white people have done since blacks were brought here and enslaved, which is just take shit. Right? They said they just want to take shit. And this idea of living in a space, in a country where you just see white people just take shit. They take your rights, they take your houses, they take your farms, they just take shit.
They take your dignity.
They take everything. And so this is what Dr. King said is when he sees looting. Not justifying it, because I don't justify white folks taking your shit either.
But you understand.
The idea is shit is being taken, right? So these black folks are taking stuff now, flat screen TVs, they're taking Jordans, they're taking whatever it is, other kind of electrical appliances and stuff. White folks take farmland. White folks take houses. White folks take jobs. White folks take dignity. White folks take all these things. So stuff is being taken, right?
Well,
one is being televised. And the other one is being marginalized. It's not that big of a deal. You're complaining too much.
Well, that's part of what we talked about earlier. That deep systematic racism, where another man, because of his race, has taken your dignity, your self-respect, your self-esteem, your children, your home, and everything that you work for, that has made you feel good about about what you have accomplished in America. Magic Johnson said that, yeah, everybody's like, well, what do you have a problem? You're Magic Johnson. He said, no, I do have a problem.
Right.
Because I get pulled over in my Bentley.
Yeah.
By a man that I pay more in taxes than he makes in 5 years.
Right. So the question again.
That takes away our self-respect and dignity and the core of what we are being men. And we've been castrated by these little white supremacists and racists for slavery.
So the
it's about time that now we stand up, Eric.
Right. So the question, and look, I'm not disagreeing that we should be standing up. Again, Malcolm said nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to give you equality. Nobody's going to give you freedom. If you're a man, you fight for it, right? And if you're not willing to fight for it, then you don't deserve it. That's what he said. So, and I don't know that looting, I don't know that burning buildings, I don't know that any of that stuff is fighting for it. I don't know that any of it is fighting for it. And my fear again, there are several forces at play here now, right? Again, one of them is you have groups of people out there trying to keep folks from being able to organize, trying to fan the flames, literally, of these fires that are going on all over the place. So you got that happening, trying to cast a shadow on what's going on by being a part of rioting or by being a part of looting. But then you have the actual looters who are doing it too, right? And so can't blame it on anybody but depraved people who are out there doing it. Then you have the political wing out there, both the Republicans and Democrats, trying to use this to suit their own interests. So on the Democratic side, they want to use it and they want to bludgeon Donald Trump. On Donald Trump's side, Donald Trump wants to point the blame to the Democrats and say to black folk, part of the reason why you're in this situation, or all of the reason, is because of failed leadership on the Democratic side. So everybody is tugging away at this thing. And in the middle, here we are again. Now that song, Here We Are Again, right? And here we are again, and we have no organization. We have no political power. We have no economic power. And we have folks who don't look like us who are ultimately deciding what the fate of this is going to be. And I'm telling you, in the end, there will be no transformative change in terms of legislation or anything. It's just going to go back to the status quo because that's where they make their money, Vincent.
Well, that may be the plan. And yes, we have seen Donald Trump blame Antifa for the white wing and white supremacists doing this act of violence during these demonstrations. We have seen Donald Trump blame people for the Russians and the Russians hacking our election process. We have seen Donald Trump blame President Obama. In fact, the only thing that he's done more than blame President Obama for his failures was lie.
Right, but we've seen failed Democrats blame Donald Trump. We've seen
Mendez blame Donald Trump.
We've seen
Yeah.
Booker blame Donald Trump. We can go,
Yeah.
right. We saw the late Elijah Cummings. Look at that district there. Blame Donald Trump. Right? We can go down the list of Democrats who would blame Donald Trump he's been in office for 3 years and is blaming Donald Trump for the dozens and dozens of years of issues that have impacted the community. Call it. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yeah.
James Duncan here.
Hey, James, what's going on, man?
How are you, boss? I was just watching your show. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hey, James. So this is Vincent. This is James Duncan, my cousin Mark's son. So my cousin, but that's the relation. Well, first I want to know why you. Someone say hi. I want to ask you: are you socially distancing? Are you staying safe?
Absolutely. Staying, as safe as I possibly can. Making sure that the people around me are staying safe and just watching, my temperature, washing my hands frequently, doing everything that I can to stay as safe as possible.
All right. So what's got you calling in today?
I was just watching your show, and you mentioned something a little bit about how we are going to see this same pattern continue over and over and over again, with not being any legislation, the fear of things not, going to change. And part of the reason why I'm calling is just as a young person, as a young biracial male, what I'm seeing in my cities and what I'm seeing as a 22-year-old in my communities around the area, that something about this one feels just a little bit different. And what I'm hearing from the young people that are around me and the people that are standing up to do this in a peaceful way, are the ones that are I feel are going to fight until this change has been made. That's what I'm talking about. I think that a lot of the times we get lost in the idea of the fear of things not necessarily being, fixed in terms of legislation and leadership. But what I saw yesterday from the President of the United States and how he addressed this country, and how the young people and the people that are around me, the local leaders that are in my community and how they are taking that, we are scared and we are very concerned and worried about what is going to happen. But what I will tell you is that the idea of protesting now has become a choice of life or death. And now the decision that is being made when we step out of our houses to protest, whether it be peacefully or not, it is a fear. But I can tell you, as young people, I'm hearing from around all over the world, the country, are telling me that they are ready to die for this. So they are ready to turn this completely around, and I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So this is what I'll say, and folks say that I'm Mr. Doom and Gloom, right? But I just look at statistics. I look at data. I look at metrics. And in this presidential election, as well as the one in 2016, you had an incredible number of people supporting a guy named Bernie Sanders and that movement, right? They talked about the crowds of young people that would show up, packing stadiums and packing the parks and all these other kind of places. But when it counted, they didn't show up at the poll, right? To really effectuate the change. So they're emotionally charged. I get it. Which is what I'm saying to Vincent. Yeah, there's an emotional component here that says, you know what? Yeah, I'm sick and tired. But then there's something you got to do beyond that. And it's that thing, it's that hurdle that there seems to be a disconnect, right? So it fizzles out right there. And that has been a knock on millennials that, yep, they'll take to Twitter, yep, they'll take to Instagram, yep, they'll take to Facebook and whatever the new, social media platforms are, and they'll even show up at a rally.
Well, see, what I love what he said was what I've been saying all along, that these millennials, these young people, the new next generation of leaders have now decided that this is life or death for them. Let us now stand. That's what we need to do.
So here's my question for you, James, because I believe that it all happens at a local level, right? All of the change happens at the local level. So in terms of these young folks that you're now engaged with, what are they doing in their community with their to bring a level of accountability and transparency in terms of effectuating change as relates to inequitability and inequality and such, social justice, at the municipal level, at the county level, at the state level? What are they doing?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of things that are happening in my area right now, okay. And I will get to that in just a second. And I just want to mention the one thing that you said about voting really quickly. Everything that you're saying, I think, is absolutely correct. I think as a young generation, we have failed at the voting polls. We have failed to go and vote and I 100% understand that. And I have held many of the people that are around me accountable for doing that. However, I will say that as young people of not just, people of color, but as all races right now, especially in my generation, are frustrated with not just the, the Republican side of things, but the Democratic side of things. I personally, as a young person, do not think that Joe Biden and the person that we're pushing right now as the, Democratic presidential nominee, is the person that is going to be the one that's going to affect change. That's hard for young people to understand. That's hard for us to grasp that. The conversations that I'm hearing, there were videos trending on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook that I think people are just are missing a little bit. Yes, we take to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, but the things that are being said, I think the messages are being a little bit mixed, because there was a trending video and a sound that somebody made on TikTok and I'm specifically speaking about this because this is what the young people are using to communicate in social media, and it was a specific video that was a girl singing a song that says, "Please don't make me vote for Joe Biden." That sound itself has over 1.2 million uses, and that, not us as young people, feel that if that is something that is trending on both sides of the aisle, that is something that we need to look at and say that our young people still feel, regardless of the candidates that are at the ballot, that our voices aren't being heard. From a local level, here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, this is where I am from. I have been on the phone for the past 3 days with local people that are downtown right now in my city, who have set up a hub right now to help with making sure that, one, the protests stay peaceful, and two, that the people that are down there have a place to go to get water and have a place to go to continue to stay healthy and take a breather if needed. The other things that this group are doing, they're meeting with officials in our city, city officials, county officials, the mayor of Lancaster County, and they're sitting down with them and they're saying, listen, this is what we want to hear. And those voices that are coming out, and they are younger voices, especially on our city council, we have some very young voices as well. But what they're doing is they are pushing for the police departments and the mayor and all the different county police departments that have come to the city outside of this, that are, the jurisdictions are outside of the city, by the way, to walk with the young people, to answer the questions and everything that is happening during the day. Now, the reason why I say during the day, this is very important. The things that are happening during the day here are, peaceful.
Okay.
What is now happening in my city is that there are, kids that are coming in, and there have been threats of violence that are happening solely at the night in the nighttime. And what these young people in this group are doing right now, they're trying to push the message, the difference between the violence and the peaceful protests, and we're slowly working our way up to the the state level where we're having these conversations. But Lancaster County in this area is, being able to jump from, this situation within a matter of 3 days to get to a state level. Unfortunately for us, we're moving there, but not as quickly as we would like. And I think that, when we get to that state level, there will be a lot more change specifically in our area. But I definitely agree with the points you're saying. What are millennials doing, and what is my generation doing to help move that conversation forward? And I think that's an absolutely great question. It's a question that I'm asking the people around me all the time and holding them accountable for.
Good. All right. Well, listen, man, I appreciate the phone call. And I'd like to stay in touch with you, James, to talk about, because, Vincent is convinced that this is going to happen with millennials. I believe that it has to happen with millennials. I just don't know, again, just based on a track record, right? What it's going to take to get over that hump. But I'd like to tap you from time to time and take the temperature and pulse of what's going on with those younger folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And tap in whenever you feel like it. You have my number. No matter what time of the day, you know you can always call me. My last message would probably just be, I challenge everybody that has a fear and is concerned about what our young people are doing right now, from people that are around me and the people that I'm talking to every day. I want to share a message of hope, because we are doing everything in our power to make this a better situation for not just our generation, for the generations that are above us and behind us. And how are we going to do that in a way that's going to be effective and peaceful? We're going to do everything in our power, at least on my end, to do that. And I just hope that, that fear can kind of just be subsided. Just I guess trust. It's just I feel like this one's going to be a little bit different. I think just trust our generation. I think we're going to do some amazing things.
All right.
Well, listen, in talking to you, I have gained a great deal of hope now. I mean, just for our next generation and what they're looking at and what you guys are actually dealing with and facing. And I'm hoping that, those in my generation can ease the burdens that you guys will be facing or dealing with in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm hoping that we can all work together to make a better America. Not just America great for certain people of power, prestige, and color or money, but make it better for all of us. Really appreciate you calling. You have really, 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 really filled my heart with a great deal of hope.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on, Eric. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Love all the work you guys are doing.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank